Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents to talk about Texas Aggie football.
What do they call him? They call him Honky Badger?
I like it.
Honky Badger.
He's a turd.
Huh?
He's
That's
got
so
a
creative.
ton of crap in his
Freaking
neck.
Honky Badger. Honky
Yeah.
Badger. That's some LSU crap if I ever heard it.
Look, I'd take him right now. He's a heck of a player. He's got
Oh, he's
36
good.
solo tackles.
Yeah, he is a good player.
But
Yeah.
he is not. He's not Honey Badger.
He is in a sense of the way
I
he
don't think
plays
he's there
with
yet.
crap in his neck. He is.
Right. He does play with a good chip on
Woo!
his shoulder. He has that about
And
him.
he does wreak havoc. You look at his stats. His stats are unbelievable.
That Honey Badger, his story about how he even got offered by LSU is pretty crazy. I don't know if it's mythical or not, but like he showed up at
Honey
camp
or
and started
Honky?
The
manning
honey
everybody.
badger.
The original Honey
okay.
Badger was an off the radar guy who went to LSU camp, started talking tons of crap, and just manned everybody up and
That's
blanketed
awesome.
them. And I,
That's freaking. I
that's
love
the story.
that.
That's the story behind him anyway. I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds good.
All right. So welcome to week 9 or episode 9 of the Trace Amigos. My name's Matt Fomer. I own a Rollo Insurance office here in Hallsville, Texas. And I'll let the other two fellows introduce themselves in a second. But owned this agency for the last 5 years. Before that, I was a high school coach for 10 years. So we still love talking ball and breaking down film. So that's what we do here. And I'll let Mark take it over in just a second. But just want to remind folks, if you're not aware, open enrollment for health is rolling out here in about 2 weeks on November 1st. So if you're looking for health insurance, you don't have to work with me, but I just let you know that's the time you want to look at that stuff. So, Mark, tell them a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mark Brown. I have a Rollo agency here in Carthage, Texas, home of champions. And been doing insurance now for 3 years. Did coaching high school level coaching for about 20, and then spent some time at the University of North Texas where we lost all over the country, but it was a lot of fun, learned a lot, worked for some great guys there. This week is a hard week. I'm gonna be the guy that tells you straight up. This is the biggest challenge we faced all year. I think LSU beats Notre Dame by 2 touchdowns if they played tomorrow, but I think so does A&M. That's my take on it. But this is gonna be a challenge, but I think also at Rollo, with what we have to offer, our ability to offer the entire piece of the insurance pie. A lot of times what we deal with is some of the harder to insure stuff, but we can get it done. It's not always easy in this market. The market's hard, but when I remember when Coach Surratt came in at Carthage and we started scheduling really hard games, Texas High scrimmage and playing teams a division above us and in the pre-district, and it was like, wow, man. And he was like, look, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, you got to want the challenge. So I think that's where Elko and those guys are. I know they're not intimidated by the challenge this week. But, man, what a great week of football we got ahead of us. I know that everybody in the national media is not mentioning the fact that there are 2 SEC teams that are undefeated in conference. They want to talk about all those guys that already got a loss on their plate. But this is the best. This is 2 of the top teams in the SEC, and they're both really good, and they're tough matchups for each other. So look forward to the challenge, and that's what we look forward to in the insurance business. It ain't easy sometimes, but we can get it done. So come see us.
All right, Seth, tell us about yourself.
My name is Seth Drennan. I coached high school football for 16 years. Various East Texas schools, various demographics, various schemes. I don't know if I'm probably a master of none. I can guarantee you that, of any scheme. To bring up consistency is one of the things that I've been some of the guys I talk ball with outside of this podcast. So we've been talking about, getting started is one thing, but being consistent week to week is another. And so I think that's one of the things we try to bring to the table at Rollo Insurance is we're going to be consistent. We're going to consistently answer the phone when you call, shoot you straight. The insurance market maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 years ago was okay for used car salesman types, but this one, you need somebody who's going to shoot you straight and going to take care of you. and not necessarily just try to be all, because this market ain't all sunshines and rainbows. You got to be real about it, right, Mark? We try to be a realist here. so yeah, we real, and that's one of the things we're going to consistently talk straight with you about stuff. I think that's the old coaching us too. You learn real quick in the coaching world. Blowing smoke don't get you very far with kids or anybody. And so anyway, so it's one of those things where I think as a team we got to see. That's the hard part. What's the hard part of being 6-1 is, can you be consistent? It's got to be every week. We're not even there. We're 60% of the way there. So
Well,
go ahead, Mark. What do you want to say?
you were saying blowing smoke don't get you anywhere. It got Jimbo millions of dollars. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true.
The man is sitting nice, but I just want to pre-warn the audience today that me and Mark might get a little sideways. Mark, here's the deal. If you've ever coached football, I've always said that defensive guys always look for what can go wrong because that's their job, and offensive guys always look for how it can go right. And so it's just different sides of the coin. You need both to win football games. So, but we'll start off by breaking down what happened in Starkville. We'll go good, bad, and ugly on the offensive side, and then we'll go to the defense. So my good is we walk out of Starkville. We're 4-0 in conference. We're 2-0 on the road after being 3 years without a road win. And it wasn't the prettiest game we've ever played, but we still walked out there with a double-digit win on the road.
Ain't nothing pretty about Mississippi ever.
Well, that's true. That's true. And so just some stats I want to put out. We're like I said, 4 games into conference. Our offense is set in third, if you look at just conference games only, and third in conference of points per game. We're first in conference of rushing yards per game, so over 200 yards of rushing. This is the big one I remember me and Seth talking about before the season started. We are first in the SEC in red zone conversions. That's huge.
Touchdown rate.
That's huge.
That's right.
Didn't know that.
We talked about the rushing yards, which is showing how well our offensive line has improved this year. But not only are we rushing for over 200 yards a game in the SEC, but we're second in sacks allowed per game. So we're only giving up on an average of one. There you go. We're only giving up an average of 1 sack per game. And we'll talk about Wigman a little bit later. I think we've decided that Wigman is good, and Wigman's shown flashes of being really good. But poor Wigman, after being behind the offensive line of Jimbo Fisher, is kind of like, what'd you say, Mark? It's kind of like a dog been beat with a magazine.
Yeah, he at times, even against Mississippi State, after he cleaned it all up against Missouri, there were times when he looked like a dog you beat with, when they're a puppy, you beat them with a magazine. Then you just got to get the magazine out and show it to them. And that's kind of what it looked like at times.
Well, and I mean, after 2 years of snapping it and running for your life, it's still. It's hard. It's a hard thing. So, and then the last stat I wanted to talk about within the SEC conference is we're second and third down conversions, and I think that's huge too. That we do a really good job of having good first, second down, gives us short yardage. But I don't know if me and Seth were talking off air, or me and Mark, but. I mean, it's gotten to the point where even if it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, I'm not like, okay, go ahead and bring the punt team on like I was the past couple of years. So I've done a great job at that point.
But defensive guys are pessimistic. Okay.
Yeah. So, but one thing I want to talk about, I want to kind of analogy, because I think, there was a big point spread going in the Mississippi State game, so everybody expected a blowout. If you looked at my prediction, if you looked at Mark's prediction, both of us thought it was going to be a relatively close game, where we maybe pulled away at the end a little bit, whatever. But here's the deal. When I first got to Carthage, I came from another school, actually where the quarterback for Florida went to high school at DJ Lagway. And we were so thrilled at that school to just be in the playoffs, in the high school playoffs. And so I go to a place like Carthage that just won 3 state titles in a row, and expectations were just on a different playing field. At Willis, we were just, our expectation was, can we get in the playoffs? In Carthage, your expectation every daggum year is to play in Cowboy Stadium at the end of the year. And so my first year there, they just won 3 state titles in a row and probably weren't as talented as they had been the previous couple years. And so We end up second in district behind Gilmer. Yeah, I know, Drennan.
We don't
And then
talk about that game.
yeah, and then we end up getting knocked out in the third round in double overtime because our sophomore kicker hits the upright with an extra point. And I remember,
and we were out of linebackers at that point, so literally out of them.
yeah, and I remember we got back that Monday. We had a coaches meeting, whatever, and I remember Scott, saying how disappointed he was, and not at the kids or the coaches, just disappointed in general that we didn't go farther or whatnot, because we all felt like if we got past that game, we were at least going to get to Cowboy Stadium. And I just remember thinking, man, what a difference in 1 year in my coaching career to go from where I was and what the expectations were there. If you would have told the people in Willis they were going 3 rounds deep, they would have put a statue out in front of the school for you. But in Carthage, it was just a different expectation. And so I think that's part of the reaction to the Mississippi State game is we've started to see what Elko's building and what he's doing. And all of a sudden now we expect we're going to blow people out like we did in Missouri, every week. And that's unrealistic in the SEC, especially this year. I'm not saying that we can't win the games, we can't win the – that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying there's dudes on every stinking team. Every team. Mississippi State has dudes. That freshman quarterback, man, you give him a little time to develop, and it's going to be scary what that kid does over the next couple of years. And so
his numbers are good since he took over as a starter. He's difference maker.
And so while I'm not saying
I fully expect them to beat somebody down the stretch. They're going to get one of those wins.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah.
No doubt. But I just wanted to kind of talk about my experience there, and kind of I feel like it kind of follows with what the expectation. I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and understand, like Elko says, it's 6 inches in front of your face. And you can't get ahead of yourself. You can't expect to, Rome wasn't built in a day kind of mindset. I think he's doing everything the right way. I think he's doing a great job, but we just need to understand what the expectations are. And when you go on the road in the SEC and you can win by double digits, you need to be smiling and be happy about it, especially if you can do it when you can go back and watch film and see all the opportunities you missed. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. But a couple things that I wanted to say was really good, in my opinion, out of this game. If you'll pull up the wide angles, those 2 I sent you for wide receiver spacing, that's one of the things me and Seth talked about during the bye week, is just sometimes our spacing on route running and all that wasn't great, but it's getting there. You can tell it's being coached, it's being corrected. We're 3-by-1 here, and I run it for just a few seconds and pause it. I just want them to see the spacing of the receivers. So they're bunched up, but give them a few seconds to spread out and pause it right there. Okay? So you got an out route, you got a shallow, you got a post, and you got a dig. That's great spacing. That's great spacing. It's hard to, he threw the out route here because they were on the short side of the field. That's the easy throw. But that dig's wide open.
I think sitting there going, throw the dig.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
They're lost.
So I just like the spacing. I like, once again, man, we're seeing coaching happen. You can see it in film. Go to the 740 wide angle, if you would, please. Okay, so you can see here we got it here. We're bunched up again. We had the little bobble there, and just pause it right there. Okay, so you can see you got the clear out. You got the dig here that's wide open. He threw it to him, which is fine. But you have spacing. There's nobody within 5 yards. I think there was a couple times early in the season we joked about one dude could cover 3 of our receivers the way they were bunched up. So you're seeing improvements in those areas, and I really feel like as the season goes on, you're going to see more and more of that. I didn't bring it up, but another highlight I thought Seth brought up during the bye week about wanting to see more, better screenplay. Well, we had a big 3rd down and 12 after, we had a great run by Moss. Gets called back because we had, we'll talk about that later, but gets called back, so we got 3rd down and 12. And, hey, we don't throw.
Okay, my bad.
But had that run called back, and then we throw the middle screen to the running back and end up picking up a 14-yard gain. So great call there. And then the other thing I want to show that like I said, I look at, are we being coached? And even if it doesn't look pretty, are we getting better? And so if you'll pull up that safety blitz, all right, so Mark will tell you if you're going to call a safety or corner blitz, it's usually going to be when you're on one of the hashes because it shortens the field. It makes it easier to cover each other. So he can see that safety coming. Where do you teach your quarterbacks throw? You throw into the blitz because he's leaving a voided area. So as soon as he gets the ball, boom, he's hitting it that flat right there. Boom, he gets it out quick. He saw that safety coming, he gets it out. And that's a coaching deal. That means he's seeing that, he's being coached on that. Go to the other one.
I have a question, Matt. I wonder if,
yes,
when you line that up and you see it, they're walling the slant. They're going to bring the safety, but they're using that linebacker. I wonder if he had an option to go in or out, like run the slant hot or run the...
Yeah, or go the out. Yeah, he may have. So back this up just a little bit to the very beginning. Okay, so, and I guess the clip didn't catch it, but if you look, this inside receiver is pointing and telling him, hey, you got that safety coming down right there. And Wigman sees it, and as soon as he gets that ball out, it's hot and it's right there. Now, this isn't a big game. This is not a big game. But he gets it out quick. We get about 5 yards here, and actually, if he'd have followed his blocker, read the head, he goes outside. But regardless, the fact is, not only is the quarterback seeing this, but the receivers are seeing it, and they're communicating. And that's huge. I'm not sure that's been happening in the last 6 years. So those are things that I saw from the game. Like I said, there's plenty of things we'll talk about in the bad and ugly that we can fix. But I just like to see, man, it's exciting to see kids that are being coached, and you can see it developing on the field in games. So, Seth, what do you got for the good, boss?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I noticed the one that stuck out to me was even going back 2 weeks to the Missouri game. It wound up a sack, but Terry Bussey pointing out the nickel because he was showing blitz. He was disguising his blitz and trying to look like man. And Bussey's pointing at him and hollering at CW. And I was like, true freshman doing something like that. And he's now played receiver. That's impressive.
True freshman from Timpson, Texas, who got the ball every play and never had to worry if they had a nickel. The only thing he knew about a nickel was he couldn't buy anything with it at the Whataburger down in Timpson.
Yeah. Hey, here's the deal, man. And we'll talk about it later, but I picked that kid to be the player of the game, and he didn't play, but he wasn't on the injury report, so that tells me that Elko felt good about winning this game, and he's smart enough to realize I got LSU and South Carolina coming back to back coming up. I'm not going to put him out there if I feel like it's gonna cause him not to be able to play in either of those games. So
it's one of the things that I was having lunch with a guy today, and we were talking about the podcast and everything, and he was like, what do you think about Elko? I can tell you like him. And I was like, it's the proactive thought process that goes into every decision. I'm not saying he's going to make every decision correctly, but what I'm saying is there's logic and a ton of forethought before it. You know what I mean? Like the idea, like you said, like he thought we've got a receiver core, we've got a fully healthy Jabray Barber finally after his 2 weeks off. He's 100% now. And we don't need Terry Bussey to win this game, but we will need Terry Bussey to go the distance this year. So it's a long term, and it's the reason it's going to come into my thing I'm going to bring up. So you brought it up. My wish list from Klein, we saw those first two things: the deep crossing concept, the deep concept passing game. I ran out of. I just had to stop. I was like, you had almost all the clips I wanted to show as well that you requested, but there were several deep passing concepts that I was like, this is so beautiful to see. And that got corrected. And then the slow screen, we only ran one true slow screen and converted 3rd and 12 with it. And talk about, I didn't even put him on my list, but I got to go off script a little bit. Jabray Barber, I called him out as like my player of the game a couple of plays in a row games in a row when he came back. Because you can see this stuff if you watch film. You can see how he runs routes. You can see the little things he does. He's not perfect by any means, but he had 5 catches early in this game. I'm talking before midway through the second quarter. 4 of those 5s converted 3rd down. That told me a lot about how Connor thinks about him, how the offense thinks about him. He reminds me of he's not got quite as much juice, but he reminds me of Xavier Restrepo from Miami, who I feel like he's been playing at Miami for about 10 years. But either way, that cat on 3rd and whatever. Yeah, on 3rd and whatever, Cam Ward's throwing it to Xavier Restrepo for a first down. It's happening. Most of the time. And dude, if you got that guy who you can trust to run that that route, get himself separated on 3rd and 6. You're not going to complete it 100% of the time, but just having that guy is big time. Consistency there is nice to see. Man, I think my good is it's showing up. It's been showing up all year, but it showed up in spades in this game. Is once again not just the O-line and how well they're coached and how much it improved, but the proactive thought process that Elko and Cushing and Klein and have to play a lot of guys all year long, and now you have these injuries that have happened to us. We don't know about Bisontis' status. Yesterday's press conference, Elko basically said not going to talk about Bisontis' status. So that tells me I don't know. That don't sound good, right? Like I don't know. Maybe he plays, maybe he don't. But the thing is, you've got Shanahan, who's played a boatload of snaps, who came in and played left guard. You've got Dewberry, who Dewberry has been. He was a big 5-star recruit. He seemed like kind of a letdown early on with Jimbo and them. He is coming on. Like I wouldn't watch those guys play because one of those two guys is going to get the bulk of the snaps at left guard going forward.
Yep.
And both of them looked like they belonged. You know what I mean? Like at no point when I was watching them snap on the snaps, I was like, did they look like, oh goodness, that guy's clearly a backup? Like we're in trouble. Like they just blended. They just jumped right in there. They're communicating. There's no head spinning look to them. I mean, it's like what the coaching job Adam Cushing done is like. Whatever the award is. I think Broyles Award, is that what it is? Him and Klein got split it, like if I'm giving it out. Like it is truly remarkable. I had some clips of Dewberry just to show you because, I mean, he has been one who's been, kind of a maligned player, so to speak, because of his, one of those guys, this big-time recruit that we got in here, and he's done a good job. Like you mentioned, I remember, I think in our very first or second podcast, Matt, you mentioned how a guy like Dewberry who's not starting, but was celebrating or maybe it was the Florida game. He was celebrating that first down when he got in the game. And so here he is, and this is not an easy thing he had to do. This is inside zone to the left, and he hasn't been in for long at this point, and he has a head-up two technique, so he's got to fire off and think, I've got this guy more than likely unless he plays a game with me, and he does. And he passes the guy off to the center and then works right up to the linebacker right there, and then up to the linebacker, good wide base, athletic looking, and right on him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, that doesn't look like a backup to me.
Well,
that
here's
comes in and
the
does
thing you
like
got to
that.
understand. This dude's a whole lot more athletic than this guy. That's just the facts of the matter. So for him to square him up like that and in space and stay on him like that's impressive.
How good?
I was really impressed when he got to second level, seeing that base stay like it did. As an O-line coach, I was like, man, that's coaching. That is a guy who's bought into what he's being told. Go ahead, Mark.
Right.
I was just gonna say, let's not miss. I mean, the center able to reach that two technique and turn him. That's a heck of a job, and I don't remember him starting the season at center.
He wasn't.
No, that's what. Yeah, I got a snap count deal I'm going to show here in just a second. I wanted to show a good Shanahan clip too on the inside zone. Almost the exact same. That's why I pulled these two clips up. Almost the exact same technique, and it's like plug and play. They played it exactly the same. Shanahan knows his rule, works up the backer, stays wide, locks on, and we got a pop. I mean, I was like, those guys don't look like backups. When they get in the game. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a reason that Bisontis starts.
I'll tell you
he's probably
this.
better.
I'll tell you this, Seth. If I'm that three technique right there, and I know I'm spiking inside, even if I'm long sticking to the backside A, as soon as that center turns to me, I've got a short sticking immediately. If he does that, it makes that block hard. So I think our guys, if you look at our D-line, they do stuff like that a lot better.
Yes,
This poor kid would have had a ton more snaps. He was the starter. And this kid, depending on what happens with Bisontis, that's going to shoot way up. But like you said, look at this. How many kids got over 100 snaps? 1, 2, 3. He'll be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys.
Hey, this is without the McNeese game in there. Just to make it like, hey, McNeese, take the FCS school out, because there's a ton of guys like, I'm going to take them out. We're just doing the games that were tight, where it was like starter top snaps or SEC schools. And so you've got 9 guys who have got almost, Nebu, injury. But other than that, there's 8 guys up there that have played a full game or a little over a game's worth of real snaps, in my opinion. So,
and like you said, Seth, that not only keeps depth, but that keeps them engaged. And, we hope that they understand they have a future here and we don't have to worry about, filling too many gaps. So.
And that tells me that they are getting, because there's sometimes sometimes, and this happens at the D1 level, I'm sure that the ones get coached hard, but the twos don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the twos kind of get skipped over in the drills, and they only get a last couple of reps in run hull, and I can tell that is not what's happening here. You know what I mean? Like these guys are being developed 1 through 10 or whatever. You know, like and prepared to like you said, and it keeps them engaged. And in this modern world, and so this is one of those things. Going back to that proactive approach, it's a hard line to walk too, because you put a backup in a random spot in a big game and they blow it. You know that's going to get you some questions at the presser. You know, so it's also it's threading that needle of being proactive, keeping guys engaged. Get that way, and it removes the excuse, right? Like, don't get me wrong. There's a certain amount of injuries you can't sustain, right? Like if you're playing a walk on at right tackle at some point, that's probably more than you can bear. But like, this is a proactive approach towards understanding. You know what? Injuries are going to happen, and we are going to proactively plan for those things to happen. And that is how we've seen, you know, now a starter loss for the year, and now DeSantis status unknown. Yet here we are with feeling pretty good about the 5 guys that'll be playing most of the snaps in the biggest game of the year. So that's my hats off to like how just the proactive, detailed planning that goes into everything. Like if you break it, you reverse engineer. There is no shoot. To use a coach, I coached for Coach Manley at Pittsburgh, and golly, he was a proactive planner, and he would rip faces off about if we were shooting from the hip. We ain't shooting from the hip, you know, and there ain't much shooting from the hip going on, in my opinion.
No,
and Coach Elko's, it's all proactively planned, and that's what makes me excited. Is I don't feel like it's willy nilly. I don't think there's a lot of shooting from the hip. It's not the sizzle, it's the steak. You know what I mean? Like this guy's bringing the steak and potatoes. We ain't talking about the dessert and the drink and the sizzle off of it. We're bringing the steak and potatoes.
You know what it reminds me of?
Anyway, that's my good.
It reminds me, and I know it's a totally different time, especially in recruiting and stuff, but I felt like R.C. Slocum was kind of the last guy that really did that. He was so bought into A&M, he wasn't going anywhere else. And while they were successful, maybe we didn't win as many Cotton Bowls as we could have, and I sat through some of those, and you could tell that the system was in place. You're like, oh my gosh, this linebacker got drafted, and then all of a sudden we get another kid. You know, it was like year after year, there was always another guy, and that guy was amazing. And you can see that on the defensive side of the ball too. I'm just telling you right now, I believe if Cassius Howe will stick this out, come back next year, senior year, I think he could be a top 10 pick in the NFL. He's that talented.
Well, we'll get to your side in a minute there, Mr. Brown. So, talking about the bad, a bye is so hard because you always need your bye, right? You need to let your kids rest. It's good for health. It's good for recovery, all that. But, man, after you win a game like Missouri and you got the momentum going, you kind of want to just keep playing, right? But we took that bye, and if you watch the SEC Inside or Inside SEC, whatever that show was, and you heard Elko, you know, they use that technology to track these guys. Are they giving full effort? Are they running in top speed? So they're trying to do all that stuff at practice, but there's nothing like game speed. Nothing. And you try to do it in practice as much as you can, but there's nothing like it. And there's some plays that we missed that I think were just because we were coming out of a bye. The double move post, you got that pulled up for me, Seth?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And I want to show both this because we talked about the dog and the magazine here, but I want to talk first about the route. And just
this was one of my clips too that I was going to use, so it made me happy. When you had it
me and Seth are on the same page. We could have worked together in the coaching world.
No.
So he runs a double move corner post here. The guy and we just overthrow it a little bit. I'll be honest, I would like to have seen Noah leave his feet if he has to make that catch. But that's just a timing deal. That's a half a step off. But here's the exciting part about it. Go to the end zone angle. This, man, if you can't get excited about this, ain't nobody touching this
half
dude.
Speed. We go half speed here. That way we can see it a little slower developing.
Okay. Ain't nobody touching this dude. This dude could pull out a lawn chair. He could have a nice drink. He got all the time in the world. Ain't nobody touching. He can step into that throw, and still nobody's around him. Nobody's within 2 yards when he lets go of that ball. That's exciting, guys. We did not have that the last 6 years. So go to the next one. I'm talking about timing a little bit on the on the fade.
RPO
I think the fade
to
route.
Cyrus Allen. Yeah, the fade route.
Cyrus here. So we throw this fade, and this is another one. It's just timing, guys. It's just coming out of the bye, and we're just right off the tips. You'd like to see him put a little more air into it, put it more towards the sideline. He kind of pulls him back in towards the numbers a little bit. But that's a play you're going to make most of the time. Go to the end zone again for me, because I want to show this. So we show counter F up front, I think, if I remember.
It's counter F protection.
Yeah, it's counter
Yeah.
F, and I love this formation.
Yeah, so we show it up front. Does a great job kicking that guy out. But look, when he lets go of that ball, there ain't nobody around him. Great pocket, great offensive line. And then what is I had the one more clip I kind of wanted to go over here at the 14th.
Yeah, can I say something about this? Is one of my favorite. I think if I had a one request, it would be to put Moss in the pistol a little bit more, just because he kind of got back into outrunning his pullers. Yeah, and this will. Sometimes those guys, they start back there. I mean, because we've always joked about how Moss he strikes you as an eye back, a classic eye. And this is essentially the modern day eye. Is just the pistol. And so you get him back there a little bit deep where he can't outrun that puller, and he can see him the whole time. It's not so close, And I love how they are pairing your basic quick game, like fade, stop, your basic quick game with the counter GH, because then you should hypothetically never be in what's just a truly bad play. You know what I mean? Like right at the snap, if they stem, we got fades called and those corners are pressed, and we're like, yeah, we like this matchup, and then at the snap they bail off. All Connor has to do is hand it off to Le'Veon, and that's blocked pretty well. I mean, I think that's a 4 or 5 yard gator. Yeah. Anyway.
No doubt.
I'm bringing up that next.
And that's a hard protection to teach and to do well.
It is.
It is.
Okay, and then since we've pause it at the beginning, back it up and pause it at the beginning, please, Seth. So we talked about the pass game and just timing being off a little bit, and we've talked about before Moss and his patience and being patient, letting blockers clear, letting do. So we run counter here, or counter F again, and he's trying, instead of taking a counter step to the left to give that tight end time to clear, he's trying to race that daggum tight end you watch him, he takes kind of a half step to the left, and then he's just trying to get downhill as fast as he can. And if he lets that tight end clear and get around and watch the hat, read the hat, the tight end kind of wraps around, and there's actually a pretty good hole to the right. But because he didn't have the patience to get behind that blocker and let the blocker do his job, and that's just timing. That's why it's bad. I don't think it's ugly. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's just coming out of a bye and just not being in your rhythm of practicing all week, playing on Saturday, And so I would imagine.
Coach, them scout team guys don't be moving like that.
No, you're right. Them scout team guys do not move like that. You're right. But I think that's something that you'll see cleaned up this week. But that was my bad, is just timing on little things that could have been big plays. So.
This exact same. I mean, I've seen teams do this too, where they'll put Moss back here and just let him start and go around this way and follow. I mean, so that's a way you can slow them down without necessarily trying to slow them down. Because you don't want to coach them down too much. So I would love to see us utilize some of that stuff as well. Because and I love the way they have once again used Moss enough, but not like he's not carried at 35 a game. Even though I'd love to see it happen, but we've got a long season ahead of us, so it's just having the stable to give him some break. That's really nice to see. So my bad is going to be the consistency, which, like you mentioned, I think the bye week actually hurt us on. I would have liked to have went right into playing another game, and I think most of the players would have too. You come off that. I mean, don't get me wrong. You'd rather go into the bye off of a win than a loss, no doubt about it. But man, when you were rocking and rolling like they were against Missouri, you really would like to just keep playing. And so that little bit of timing off, and I think we'll hopefully get those things cleaned back up. The consistency, I guess that's going to be the hardest thing that Connor's going to have to deal with. How good he was against Missouri. I felt like in this game there was a couple times he felt like he's like, if I don't have an 80% completion rating, I am failing the team. And that's not, he doesn't have to do that. Like when we went out there and just throttled Missouri, he made about 4 or 5 really special NFL throws, but the other 18 completions he made, or whatever it was
We're just
were just game manager. Yeah, they were just game management throws.
Yeah, we
like,
dropped
I
it
just
down
know
to
where to
Moss
put
2 or 3
this.
times, and Daniels.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, and on time. Like I'm delivering this on time. I'm
Yep.
not going to hold it and then go a little late and taking off a little bit. And so I would almost like to see him throw a couple away to kind of show me that he's being smart with it and not feeling like the pressure of every pass has to be this window perfect throw and completion and all of that. So anyway, I got a couple of. I wanted to talk about because people were saying, hey, we should have had 4 interceptions. He should have had 4. And don't get me wrong, but I wanted to point out that one of these is because I did, whenever we were talking about Marcel, I said Marcel threw a 1 ball when he should have threw a 2, and saw the exact same thing happen with Connor right here too. This is the
tight end.
Yeah, this is the little rail route they tried to throw to Moss out of the backfield, and if you see, he drives a 1 ball. Yeah, he drives a 1 ball to him right there, and if that's a 2 ball, if he just puts that little bit of air and puts it out here, that might be a touchdown. I mean, I don't know if Moss is going to get tackled by that safety or not. So that was one that could have gone either direction. That could have been 6 either way. You know what I mean? It ended up being incomplete. That's just a small little that linebacker kind of got lost behind the line. He kind of forgot he was there and thought he was wide open and tried to drive it where that's really just a 2 ball. And then
I'm interested.
The other one was not his fault at all. What's that?
I said I'm interested in the end zone view of that. Did he look that guy off knowing the rail was going to be over there? Because right here he
should have put it on there, but no, you can see it on the end zone view. 40 is behind the left guard, like the pass protection, and just emerges into the pass lane like that. And that's what got him, was he lost him in the pass blocking. Because 40 had ran back in with that motion and then stuck his foot in the ground and sprinted back out to that spot. So it was a good play by 40, actually. He knew exactly where he needed to be. But this one was really Ja'Day Walker's fault. This is like 2nd and 15, and I don't know what he's doing, if he's just scatting or what. But it looks to me like he's supposed to be running a stop route right there. And then he decides to just keep going. And, if he's running a stop route and using his body to come back and try to catch that ball, that's not going to be a near pick at all. I mean, it may not be. He may get tackled for 5 and we have to punt or whatever, but that's better than pick 6. So the consistency that it takes to be great in the SEC week to week, that's really hard. I mean, step 1 is getting to that point where you have a few big wins and you're starting to stack them. And then step 3 is like, holy cow, we've done so good. Oh, we've got 5 more games to do this. You know what I mean? Like It's not over yet. Oh gosh, we got to keep this laser focus and this amount of attention to detail over and over and over again. And that's where I think Elko. No doubt he's trying to turn those levers and knobs to keep that there. But it's difficult, and that's what makes it good, is winning a game where you necessarily didn't do that. Like you come out, there's a little bit of sloppiness, a little bit of ugliness, the penalties negate some big plays, and instead of just going into a shell and losing the game, you just went ahead and won it anyway. Because you're going to have it.
So Seth, I want you to look at this picture. Look, it's 2nd down and all the way to freaking Brenham, and they are playing a huge shell. I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath, 3 over the top. We put him in a bad situation, and I know Matt's going to talk about why he's in that bad situation. And and we've got to stop putting him in those situations.
Yeah. So, so my ugly, and here's the deal, they were much better on penalties. We didn't have near the penalties this game that we've had in other games and all that. But we still got to clean it. We still got to clean it up, and we've got the ones that drive me insane are the pre-snap penalties. I can deal with the face mask. I can deal with the holding. Those are effort things to me. That means the kid's trying to make the play, and he just didn't have his hands in the right spot, whatever. But it wasn't an effort thing. But pre-snap penalties, man, that's just silly, stupid, just drives you insane. So Barber played an amazing game. Player of the game, receiver, all that, great. But I'm going to show you here, not only on the pre-snap penalty, but also if you watch it from the end zone, he doesn't continue to play till the end. So back it up to the very end. Just in case you don't know what penalty they called, can you back it up there all the way to the front and stop it for a second?
All the way to the front, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah, just stop it for a second. All right. So, So if you can see, they called, you can't have 2 offensive players moving at the same time. Okay, so that's a rule in football. So Barber needs to get his butt set. 2 things. Barber needs to get his butt set. He's got to get set so that Thor has enough time to move and do his thing. The other thing is Thor's got to make sure he's set before he moves. So it's real. This penalty's kind of on both of them. Okay, So that's the screw up. But the worst part about this, and this probably drives him. I guarantee this was shown on film because he had a great
No doubt.
week. But this is something you
No
still want
doubt.
to look to improve. He bust a great run. Should have been a 30-yard run. But look at Barber. He ain't getting involved. Back it up to the yeah. Okay, so Barber's right here. He runs a swing. We see the play bust. Get your butt down there and help out. Don't be jogging. Don't be jogging. Get it. And if he hustles up, that dude doesn't make the tackle and he scores. If he
It's almost like he realized it late. He was like, "Oh gosh."
He's like, "Oh crap, I gotta get involved." And then by then he makes the tackle. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a hustle thing. So we had a pre-snap penalty, which is inexcusable to me, and we had a hustle thing. I'm not trying to dog on the kid. The kid played amazing. He played great. But this is still stuff, like Seth said, when you can win by double digits and still go back on film and say, man, we missed a play there that should have been 7 points on the board. Should have been a big, explosive run play, and we gave it up because we couldn't get lined up and set. And even then, when we snapped the ball, even though the flag, we still didn't hustle our butt down there to block. So that's my ugly. I know I'm picking on a kid that had a heck of a game, but I had to find an ugly, and that was it. So
you got to bring him down a peg, You got to bring him down a peg after that.
Seth, tell us what your ugly was, boss.
First off, I forgot to mention that I love this little wrinkle they added of bringing the tight end in motion to go kick out the backside end on inside zone. That's not. I like that. That gives a little bit of more tough for the defense to pre-snap get lined up for. But my ugly was I already showed it. I kind of went out of order. Was Jaday's route on that 2nd and long where he nearly cost us a pick 6, where he just seemed like he was deciding it's 2nd and 22. I'm just going to keep running. I think that was the old Jimbo way, where you choose your own adventure route is what I like to call it, with the West Coast stuff that Jimbo had, and that's I don't think Klein's system is that way at all. I think it's very structured and very rigid because it's based on timing, and it's really hard to throw the ball timing wise if your guys are just kind of they've got 3 different stems they can take and routes they can run. So that was bad to see because that nearly cost. I mean, and that's what I hate about a receiver caused interception because it always goes on the stat line for the quarterback, But that was purely on that was bad. And I'll tell you,
Troy Aikman would not be happy with that route.
What's that?
Troy Aikman.
No, he would not have been.
Neither would Scott Surratt. Mark got to hear me get chewed out pretty good on a route that my tight end ran incorrectly and caused us.
What are you doing with that guy all week? You got one freaking guy to coach.
You got one guy, Fulmer. Can you not coach one stinking guy? Yeah, I remember that butt chewing, Seth.
Oh yeah.
All right, Mark. So give us your good, bad, and ugly of the Mississippi State.
I got one more. I got one more.
Sorry,
ugly.
Seth.
Sorry.
Hold on,
I got one more. I forgot to. Yeah.
All right. So did you have another one, Seth, before we kick it to Mark?
Yes, my ugly. Can y'all see that right there?
Mm-hmm. Somebody in the box.
Okay, that's the Mississippi State press box, and I could be wrong, but that might be one of the ugliest press boxes I've ever seen at the Division I level. I mean, those guys. I don't know if we were filling out if we were filling out a commercial quote sheet, I don't think we could put updates anywhere near the last 15, 20
No,
years.
they fail inspection. Look at the siding on that thing. That's terrible.
Every shot of Klein, I was like, that poor guy.
You're not riding no policy. That's self-insured right there.
Yeah. So,
Man, that's
all right. So Mark, tell us about the good, bad, and the ugly of our defense, boss.
the good is that let's just say it, Scooby. I mean, the dude. I feel bad because I haven't mentioned him before because I've been on York so much, watching York improve.
right.
But one thing I haven't said that kind of needed to be said is I have to talk about him because he was so solid in every clip all year long. Man, he just looks like he's playing the position well. And I'm glad he finally had a game where he could stand out. And our opponents have picked on York because he is a little behind in technique and understanding some things. And they still pick on him a little bit. He's a lot better. But, man, I'm so proud of that guy. He was definitely my good. There's a guy on film, and when you coach, you have guys that are super talented, and you have to coach the piss out of them because they're super talented and they're going to do lots of good for you. And then you have guys you just know that they have all the athletic ability in the world, but you got to coach them hard. You got to, you got to give them extra reps after practice. And all right, you and me in the sled after practice, buddy. But then there's these guys that just kind of fall under the radar because they do everything well. and you don't have to coach them as much. He's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and then you don't have to worry about them, and they do it right, and you don't say nothing. And those guys don't get the love, and he hasn't been getting the love, but he does now because he had an outstanding game, got a pick, and just the linebacking core is coming together. They're not where I would want them to be at yet, but they are so close, and hopefully they'll show out this week. But he was the good. The bad is, and I'm going to pick on something, and I hate to critique scheme. I mean, unless it's the 3-3-5, I'm going to pick that to death. That 3-3-5 is stupid. I mean, those are whiteboard nerds that think they can win because they have a marker in their hand. Can't be done.
Hey, it's the Leach coaching tree. That's their DC.
I know. North Texas, their guy's a Leach guy, and we run the 3-3-5, and they scored 40-something points and lost 50 because they gave up 52. They're terrible. They lead the nation in offense, but they can't stop anybody. And it's sad because my buddy coaches secondary there, and I know he's a hell of a coach. But I'm going to pick on our scheme a little bit because we came out with a different scheme for Mississippi State. We came out in the old 4-down where you stand the two ends up, and we played a lot of 3-shell. Well, that's great and all. I get why we did that with this freshman quarterback that's been really good. I mean, I think he put 30 points up on Georgia. I mean, think about that. I mean, there's other teams around the country close to us that couldn't put up more than 15. I'm just saying.
You know what they did do? They put a lot more than 15 water bottles on the field when they didn't get their way.
Yeah, I think they still drink out of glass water bottles in Mississippi, but okay. So we played a lot of that 3-bail with our corners, and on 3rd and 8, they Gilmered us a little bit with these chain routes, and they converted. And I just don't look. I know you're a cover 3 guy. I know you're responsible for everything deep. I know you at times have to read 2 to 1 on the receiver side. But it's 3rd and 8, and your guy runs an 8-yard out or stop. You know, you got to be ready to attack it. And I didn't like that, so that was my bad. And I'm going to say the ugly is the freaking back out. Have I mentioned back out scares me against our defense? Have I mentioned that at any point, any time during this podcast, that you can look on film and go, if I'm an offensive guy, I'm like, hey, we got to get the back out. And Mississippi State did it, and they caught us in a blitz on it, and they picked off Scooby, which is a bad plan to have your middle linebacker cover the back out across the quarterback. That's hard anyway, but if he doesn't get picked, he stops him for maybe, if he makes a good tackle, he probably stops him for a 5 or 6 yard gain. But they picked it. York got caught up in the blitz and going, should I peel with this guy? Should I engage this guy? And that was their touchdown. All right, so there you go. York's coming back. I mean, he's free and clean. And you're expecting the safety to make the play. He's in the middle of the field, and Scooby was in the middle of the field. He gets picked. So if you watch Zero right here, he's responsible for the back. That's great if the back is an inside protector and leaks. Or even if he swings to the strong side here, he can get him. But he's going to cross his face on run. He does a good job. He sees it. He recognizes the pick, but he can't get around it. The guy just does a great job. Right there, he gets picked.
The guy just straight up blocks him, which is legal in this situation. So I honestly wish we did more of this stuff.
If you watch York on the play, York has just a tiny fraction of, the back's coming. And it just freezes him long enough, because if he's a step closer, he can alter that throw. So we've got to deal with the back out a little bit better. We've got to figure that out, because I think more teams will use it.
All right, so when we talk about our predictions versus reality, so my prediction was 35-10, and the interception that Wigman threw gave him that short field, gave him the 24. I think I'd have been close with 34-17, but you had that. I said that Moss was going to have a 100-yard game, which he would have if the 2 runs hadn't been called back for penalties. And so, but my player of the game was going to be Terry Bussey. Unfortunately, he didn't play, so I didn't get that at all. So, Mark, tell us about your prediction, because I thought it was pretty accurate. Close.
I said that we would struggle a little bit. I kind of felt like the bye week, too. Bye weeks are only good for wives and trainers, coaches' wives and trainers. Only thing that, that's it. You get to heal up, and then, you got to go spend time because you got time off, and that's, so I felt like we would do that. I felt like we would give up 24 points, but I will say this. As the game progressed, I told Matt in a text message, I said, 20 points is their ceiling. And until the pick, I thought that's where they were. I felt like we had them.
Right.
We had adjusted to everything, and I thought we had them. But again, and I would say the ugly too is we've got to learn sudden change. We turn it over, we still got to get them stopped, and we're not going to. We come off a little. I don't know what it is, but somehow or another we end up giving up a big touchdown play in those situations, and we did in that point. I felt like it would be 31-24. We did get another field goal, so that was good, but I kind of felt like it was going to be like that in Starkville. So bring on the bad spellers. I said my player of the game would be York. I missed it. It was the other guy next to him. So
Well, York had a great game too.
He did, but it was all quiet stuff. Just a guy doing what he's supposed to do. But Scooby had the game. He was playing the game.
Tell us about your prediction, how it turned out.
Thought we were going to cover, but man, you could tell early that it was just going to be one of them days in Starkville. That's a tough place to win. It probably doesn't help that you get used to playing in these SEC stadiums, and then you're playing in a stadium that's not as good as most of the high school stadiums here. So that doesn't probably help anything. Just feels a little surreal. And then the cowbells, it's like, oh, are we playing Friday night? What's going on?
Well, and maybe the lead paint fumes from the press box. I mean, it still has lead paint on it.
Exactly. So. That's what that shot of Klein. I kept laughing. I was like, I know there's a Mississippi State part of the athletic department that's like, we need to call ESPN and tell them quit showing that coach in the press box. That looks terrible.
That press box is the college equivalent of Diboll High School.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Have you ever coached there?
It's
Seth?
brutal.
Well,
I
I
hope
coached in
nobody
many 2A
listens
press boxes.
Okay, so I hope nobody listens that's from Diboll, but if you are, I'm sorry. But when we coach down there, we usually have 6 coaches in the press box, 3 offense, 3 defense. 3 of us would have to sit in the top row of the bleachers, and they would hand us our headset through the window, and we'd have to sit in the front and make our calls.
I've done the top row.
Yeah.
I did the top row in Cumbie, Texas. You're in the top right corner of the bleachers.
I remember Matt and Diboll. My job was, hey, did it hit A gap? Did it hit B gap? And they got down inside the 15 one time, and defensive coordinator's like, Brown, where did that hit? And I'm like, hell, I don't know, man. I can't see nothing but a wall.
Can't see anything.
I said, ask the secondary coach. I can't see it.
Dude, It was sometimes, I was in the press box as an OC at Overton, and sometimes it was just like, what am I doing up here? I mean, this is ridiculous. It was so bad. And I actually quit. I did it one season up in the press box, and after that, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm coming down. I can't do this from the anyway. So, that was that press box. Wow. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get us off.
You're fine. All right, so now we're moving on to face these kiddies from across the river there. They 6-1 on the season. They lost their first game of the season. I will say that loss is probably a little uglier than Notre Dame right now with USC. Lincoln Riley, the only thing saving him is an $88 million buyout. I thought we had a bad one with Fisher. Jeez Louise, they're going to have to make some movies to sell tickets and buy that one out.
Right.
But 6-1 on the year, 3-0 in the SEC. Coming off a big win against Arkansas in Fayetteville. And so their defense based out 4-3 look. They're giving up quite a bit through the air, 240 yards through the air. Watching the Arkansas game, they were pretty successful through the air against them. They're giving up 125 yards on the ground. I will say this last game against Arkansas kind of helped that stat because they gave up less than 50 yards against Arkansas on the ground, which me and Seth were talking about this. I don't really understand Arkansas's game plan because they were moving the ball well and just kept shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers, but they completely abandoned the run game. Even though they were having success, I forgot the kid's name, but Arkansas top running back was averaging over 5 yards a carry, but they abandoned it completely. But if you watch that game, what killed them was Arkansas had 3 turnovers, LSU had none. So
that's a honky badger.
That's the old honky badger. We'll get to him in a second. Old honky badger. I can't believe that. I feel awful even saying that about the kid. He may be a great kid. That's terrible.
I have a feeling that kid embraces the title based on how I watched the game.
I think so.
They have been really, really good at causing fumbles and getting after the quarterback. 21 sacks on the year, has caused 12 fumbles. They've only recovered 5 of them, but they have caused 12, and they have 6 interceptions. So they're causing some havoc. They're definitely causing some havoc. Their key players are going to be a defensive end, Braden Swinson, out of Georgia. Honky Badger is out of Georgia, so I guess LSU has a good track record and Georgia getting kids out of there. But the defensive end out of Georgia has 7 sacks already on the year, and old Honky Badger is leading the team with 68 tackles on the year. They are susceptible in the secondary. They got a kid, Gilbert, that transferred from A&M as one of their starting safeties. He wasn't particularly great here. And then they've got Zy Alexander, who transferred from Southern University right there in Baton Rouge. And so they're not particularly great defending, against the pass. So we're going to need to be effective there, and we need to be able to run the ball. And I think I don't know if it was Seth or me and Mark talking, but Moss is from Louisiana. You got to think he's going to want to, if this is going to be his last year and he thinks it's time to go off to the NFL, he's going to want to end this last game against his home state in the right manner. So Mark's going to think I'm crazy when I say this. Watching them against Arkansas, they do get after you and they can cause you some problems. But I think we can score 28 points on this defense. So that's where I'm at. Seth, what do you got?
I am with you on. I have some stats here to show you because really, we're kind of. It's a weird matchup because this feels like if we go back in time, if I was pulling up these stats, that LSU and Texas A&M would be flipped. Because LSU out there, you see college passing yards per game allowed in conference is 243.7. It's next to Mississippi State. So Mississippi State was the worst passing defense in the. They did okay against us. A little bit of us being more inconsistent, but they've struggled against the pass this year, and they've also. So 15th out of 16th against the pass, and then against the run, they're 12th out of 16th. And this is conference games only, is what I have queued up right there. So that just feels. And us being number one versus the run. And then on the pass being, number 8 right now. I think by the end of the season that may even be higher too. But that is interesting to me. It just feels like a flipped situation. You know what I mean? Like this is a team. To me, if you're LSU coming into this game, I feel like they think if we beat A&M, we're going to hit on about 4 explosive pass plays. Like that's how we're going to beat A&M. Right. I don't think they're going to come in here and go 3. It's like a 3 and in or 3 and out situation, right? And they are going to challenge our secondary. Like they challenge them. They chunk the ball deep a lot, so much so if you watch that Ole Miss game, it's like every now and then you're watching that LSU quarterback going, why don't you just check it down every now and then? But he loves to chunk it deep, and he's got some weapons, so I would too if I was him. But we think Connor has some inconsistent performances, based on how the Notre Dame game looked and how the Missouri game looked. I think LSU's quarterback takes that even more extreme with his inconsistency. Like that dude, sometimes if you clipped up his best plays, you're like, NFL. Like this guy is a first round pick, and then if you watch his bottom 10, you're like, holy cow, he's the starter. It is all over extreme. The map with that guy. Go ahead. Yeah, I'll tell you where they are good. They're good at the tackle spots. Both tackles on the offensive line are really good, and they've only allowed 2. This is not filtered for conference play. This is sacks allowed all games. They've only allowed 2 on the season. So I think the matchup of the game is will we get after him? Because if we do, that's going to bear pretty well, or are they going to be able to neutralize our pass rush? Like, I think that's the matchup of the game. I know the secondary is definitely been like, if that breaks, if we can make that number tick up, that's going to be the difference in the ball game. Because I do think we're going to score points on these guys. It's a matter of, are we going to be able to snuff them out defensively? I do think we're going to score some points.
I like it.
Yeah, always, right?
Hey, all I know, Mark, is if the defense doesn't allow them to score a point, we can't lose. We can't lose.
Right.
Yeah, that's doable. we should.
We'll say this. I wanted to show y'all this real quick too. I'm kind of out of sorts, but this little spot right here down in the cornerbacks, we got BJ Mays won the nickel job in that game against Mississippi State. So I think I think that what's
We
that?
hope. The plan has always been. I thought he wanted a long time ago, but they have gone Hill
All right.
early, Mays late. They've done it every game.
Yeah. This was the first time I saw this big of a discrepancy in the snap count. They've been closer to 50-50, and this one was pretty significantly not 50-50. And I feel like after Hill gave up that long pass, because that's what they're. I mean, like they got three receivers at LSU that can beat you on any play. So you better be able to man those guys up and stay on them and make him. If it's really, I think Lee's gonna get up. Lee's gonna play. It's gonna come down to how well does Ricks and how well does Mays play, and are we able to get after the quarterback? And if we can do that, then we bust them. You know what I mean? Like that's how that works.
Y'all spent 4 hours talking about the offense. Now you're talking about the defense. Isn't that supposed to be my stuff right here? I mean,
Sorry, Mark. Sorry. Go ahead, boss. Tell us what you think
well,
about the defense versus their
well,
offense.
I think Seth kind of covered it. It's with these guys. It's their quarterback looks unbelievable. Late in the Mississippi Ole Miss game, good Lord, at the throw he made in overtime. Like, I mean, but then at times, he looks like a LSU fan at a tailgate and somebody throws a spelling test in front of him. He looks kind of confused. Hopefully we can put him in some of those situations. I think that you will see Elko go back to some of the two-man looks that we saw early. Put Mays on him, put Hill on him, whatever, but have a safety over the top of that. And I think we're going to see some more of that two-man stuff. The question becomes then with LSU's run game is, can we stop the run in a two-man look? That'll tell early. I think early in the game, can our D-line continue to get after these people like they have everybody else with two-man shell behind them? And if they can, then yeah, I mean this could be trouble for LSU and their quarterback. And I don't know that we need a ton of sacks. If we can get 2 sacks, that's great. I think we will. I don't think we need more than that, but what we do need is a lot of hurries. Let's turn this into a
Speed him up. Speed him
test,
up.
with him. Make him figure it out. What he likes to do is when he gets the blitz is throw the fade on the outside, and he's good at it. So you got to be ready for that. It's tried and true. Stop the run, force him into these situations where he's got to throw, but you got to be able to help on some of these receivers, and you got to be able to get in his face and rush him a little bit. I think that's the key to the game is our D-line. Our D-line, to me, is the best part of this football team, whether anybody realizes it or not. Moss is right there, and our O-line, Moss and our O-line are right there, but I think our D-line has proven to be the strength of this football team. They are getting after it. They cause havoc up there, and if they can do that with the 12th man behind them, this could go in our favor a lot. I think it stays low scoring because of that. I think we win like 21-17, and I think it's a barn burner, and I think it comes down to the defense getting a stop late. Hopefully, we'll get a turnover in that. And I'm gonna go back to my boy Cassius Howell. He's going to have the big sack. They're gonna feel it across the Sabine River when the 12th man goes 8 nuts crazy in that stadium. It's gonna shake the earth when Cassius Howell hits this guy from behind and knocks the middle.
All right, so Mark's throwing his prediction out there. He jumped out on me early, but that's awesome. No,
I
you're good.
That's fine.
You're good, man. You're good. So my prediction, I think, like I said earlier, I think we can score 28 on them. I think it's going to be a close game, like Coach said, but I think it's going to be 28-24 A&M. And if you notice, the Swede hadn't had the ball lately. We hadn't thrown the Swede the ball lately, but Swede's been busting his tail on the blocking. And any good coach, if you appreciate what he's doing blocking, you're going to give him the ball a little bit just to reward the kid. So he's going to be my player of the game. I'm going to say he's going to have at least 3 catches and have 1 touchdown. So my Swede's my guy. So what do you got, Seth?
Yeah, so I'm going to go real specific on my prediction. I have a feeling, a premonition, just because of what happened a few years ago at Kyle. I think we're going to win it 28-21 in overtime. I think we're going to they're going to get the ball first, and we're going to not even let them score, and then Le'Veon Moss is going to pop one to end it, walk-off touchdown. Anyway, maybe I'm just dreaming. Maybe I'm just daydreaming.
Hey,
I hope it
we
is.
come out there with a dub. I don't care. Overtime,
That's
regular,
right.
do
Yeah.
not care. We win this
Yeah.
game, and it'll be a celebration to be had. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, well, guys, we appreciate you listening. Hopefully, we gave you some information and enjoy the game. Blackout, as Seth Sign says in the
right.
back. I know everybody, Mr. Traditional here in the middle doesn't like the blackout, but he's wearing black. I think he's trying to support it without supporting it. So wear the blackout, support the kids, be loud.
I will remind you that blackout ain't for us. That's for the kids. You know what
It's
I mean?
100% for the kids. We're just
Yeah,
old farts that like watching the kids.
Look,
So,
That's right. So if they're in, I'm in. You know.
that's right.
I would just ask the Aggies to come out, the 12th man, come out, be loud, but be nice to them guys from Louisiana, man. You know, they live in Louisiana, so just they're not.
They gotta go back.
Just welcome them to Aggie land, and they're gonna say some really dumb stuff. Some of it you ain't even gonna understand. I have family. My family's from Louisiana. I get it. But, you know, be nice to them, man. They got to go back across the river and live.
All right, guys. Gig 'em, and we'll see you next week.
Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents, talk about Texas Aggie football.